Good morning, Country Church. It's good to see you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. The weather and things have kept us out from in person, and as elders, we really wanted to have kind of that touch into your Christmas season, and the ice has kept us from it. So sorry for that. Sorry for the live stream thing. That was uh, things just got dropped a bit, but we're here with you, and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. And it's Christmas Eve. And I pray that your respective holiday season, your Christmas season, is one well spent with families and enjoying each other's company. Also, I do want to make this announcement on behalf of the Seifert family. Earlier this week, Pat Seifert went on to be with the Lord, and they are in good spirits and things like that. But we just want to hold up our pastors, hold up Tricia and Eric, hold up David and Krista, the extended families, to the grandkids, hold them all up in prayer. Tight knit group of family, and so um, be holding them in your prayers. Gary has already made the announcement to Pat's passing, and the memorial service will be September Saturday, January 7th, and more details will come certainly as that unfolds. But if we were in person, we would have had a number of people that are telling the Christmas story, the nativity, the proceedings of the birth of Christ. In fact, I was wanted to come up with something really cool on the meaning of nativity. I really wanted to, kind of wow you with, oh man, that's the truth is, nativity simply means the proceedings of a birth. So we all have nativities. Now, the one with Jesus is just extra special. It's laden with God's touch to humanity. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the nativity. And if you want to read through it on your own, we do it every Christmas. We set out a nativity, but before we open presents, we sit down and we read both Luke chapter 2 and Matthew chapter 2, and we talk about we read through the story and we have communion. The nativity is the normal proceedings that took place when Christ was born. And so we have a particular nativity set. My wife has like 26 different nativity scenes. There's 19 or 20 sets, but this one was created by my aunt. We've had it about 35 years, and so this one is the set that we use to set the tenor of the whole Christmas season. And so we have our whole family together, and we've done it since Lindsay was just a baby. We talk about each piece as we set it out, and 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 over the years, as they've grown up and understood the Christmas story, their understanding of the different symbolisms and things has developed to where there's been a lot of good revelation that's come around their nativity. And so um, whether it's a camel and just a beast of burden, the cows that are beasts of burden, we'll talk a little bit about them. But or if it's Mary and Joseph, and ultimately certainly Jesus the gift. But that's something that we've done. Nativities are important. The nativity is important as a remembrance for us. Um, uh, the sets that she has some that are for the grandkids can touch and play with. She's got other ones that are fairly spendy, and so we keep those things in consideration as well. Um, want to talk a little bit about the nativity, and I want to start with the stable because the scripture says that the stable was in a place called Bethlehem. Now Micah 5:2 forecasts Jesus being born in Bethlehem, and it says this: "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small," Ephrathah literally means a woman. It's a feminine, but and many cities were named like that: Bethlehem Ephrathah, or Tiberias, or something like that would include that as a feminine thought to it. So any Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old. Now that's it. Whose origins are from old, from ancient of times. And so while we have a baby, this baby is not just a baby, this baby is of ancient of days, meaning you're talking to the deity of Christ, but he's going to come to Bethlehem. Now, Bethlehem isn't Jerusalem. Jerusalem is this hustling and bustling city. It's the temple worship. It's large. And Bethlehem, when we were there, we had a chance to go into Bethlehem. You don't always get that opportunity. It's a small community, maybe a little bit bigger than Colton. It's got certainly there Arabs that are selling things to tourists, things like that. But you can look down over the fields of Boaz, and we'll talk about them in a little bit when we talk about the shepherds. But looking down the fields of Boaz, and you can see Jerusalem in the distance. And Bethlehem would be in obscurity, a place of non-importance, certainly. And in Luke chapter 2, there's a decree that comes from Caesar Augustus that calls everybody back to where they're born. And so Joseph and Mary, they make that trek back to this place of obscurity. It'd be like this. It'd be like God coming to the people of Colton. God coming to the people of Molalla. He's not going to go to Seattle. He's not going to go to LA or one of these big places where glamour, money, high movement is. He's going to go to people that are probably overlooked at times. And he's going to come make his visitation there. And so the stable in and of itself is a very significant piece to being something that represents humanity. Well, we talked about some cows and camels, and they're all beasts of burden and how they carry loads. And what we're going to see there is that Jesus is going to carry the load or the weight of sin of the world. And so Jesus being born in Bethlehem is a sign that he's not going to come as the Lion of the tribe of Judah on this one. He's not going to come as the conquering king. He's going to come as a baby that touches into humanity, into all sectors, whether you're Hillbilly Jim, you're just a common school teacher, you're just an auto mechanic looking under the hood. He's going to come to all and offer something. He's going to offer to carry the weights of things that we ourselves can't carry. Story of the shepherds. The shepherds says that the shepherds watching their flock by night. You know, I think about this moment quite frequently. Whoops, I'll let my wife set it back up. The shepherds, and you know, in the days of the nomadics and the shepherds were the youngest of the tribe. Remember when Samuel came to Jesse and said, "You've got to have a son out of all your sons because God is going to appoint one of them king." So he starts to bring the oldest, and it works on down. I can't remember if it's Eliashib or he was second or third. Anyway, but he brings them and he starts to present them to Samuel. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. He goes down 7 strong and says, "Nope, it's not any of those. You got to have somebody else." Well, there's David. There's David. He's out in the hills. He's watching the sheep. He's insignificant. And that's kind of the way that the shepherd was viewed, was just kind of the one that's set back, the one that's set aside, the ones that's not publicly seen. And so you can imagine these shepherds, and they're being true to their job. They're over, and they are watching through this field of Boaz. And they may have dreams. They may have hopes. They may be saying, "Boy, I wish I was older. I wish I had more skills. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that." And they're sitting there. Have you ever gone camping and it's dark out and you light a campfire? I remember when we were going through COVID, Russell would have these campfires and he'd invite guys up just to chit chat, and we'd sit around the fire and talk. And with a fire, it's good for up close, but you can't, beyond that, it gets really dark quick, right? And I could only imagine these shepherds that are sitting around the campfire, and in a moment, it says a heavenly host appeared. Could you imagine that? That would, and the first thing to say is, don't be afraid. That's a good comment. Don't be afraid. But the idea of the declaration of the birth of Christ coming to the people that are not popular, not significant in the moment. Maybe they will be someday. But their response, and it is really indicative of God coming. Once again, I said this whole nativity is centered around God coming to humanity, not to popularity. And Jesus appeared to Mary. He appeared to Joseph. Joseph was a carpenter. And when you think of carpenter, don't think of a house builder. Think about one who takes in his life and builds tables, builds chairs. Not a wealthy occupation by any stretch of the imagination. But it says Joseph was a righteous person. And so he probably, I could see Joseph building a chair and somebody saying, I don't really have enough money to pay you for it. That's fine. You be blessed from God. And so Mary, an underage mother, I mean, we've heard those stories. How can this come upon me? And her response is, be it unto me according to your will. So what we see from Mary and Joseph is not popularity. We see vulnerability. We see pliability. We see, yes, I'm willing to carry out your wishes and your commands. Joseph could have had Mary put away, but because he was righteous, he didn't do that. And so there's a story of the kings. And, you know, there's a couple traditions out there. One is that the three kings, one comes from northern Turkey, one comes from Saudi Arabia, and one comes from Egypt, and it represents the three continents around that area. And I think that is more of a tradition than is factual, because in the Bible it says they were magi in the east. Now, some have surmised that those magi could be as far away as India, which would have them crossing the Himalayan mountains and making their trek to Jerusalem. You're talking about 1,500 miles. Let me ask this question. How long would it take you to go 1,500 miles on a camel? You know, Bend and Redmond and Sisters are all 20 miles apart because that was considered a day's travel. You put that in there, and this is something that could have been months and months and months. So God comes to kings, but not just any kings. He comes to kings that have a particular discernment. They see a star. I want to throw this out. In fact, let me read Numbers 24:7 to you. It says, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will rise out of Israel. Certainly it's talking about Jesus rising up as the ruler of Israel. But it talks about a star, the morning star. And I want to submit to you that it wasn't a literal star that they saw at all. It was a manifestation of something the Holy Spirit was bringing into their purview because of a type of heart they had. They were tradition calls them kings, certainly village chieftains, people who were wise and oversaw the village that they resided in. But there was a certain humility that they possessed because they were going to go see somebody greater. The proclamation to Herod was, we have come to worship the one who is King of the Jews. And so they weren't so high and mighty that they couldn't give worship. There's an interesting, let's see here. Herod brought the kings, and he said this. Then Herod secretly called the Magi and ascertained from them the time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and make careful search for the child. When you found him, report to me that I may go worship him too. And then an angel appeared to the Magi and told them to go a different direction. Don't go back to Herod. You could say that Herod wanted to kill Jesus from the very get go because of the threat to his kingly lineage, and that could be so. But as I was looking at that, God would reveal himself to people who wanted the search. He wanted to go after Jesus, that wanted to look for him. And I think that's true in everyday life, that Jesus has offered himself, but he calls us to the pursuit. And Herod wasn't willing to go on the pursuit for Jesus himself to worship. He wanted others to do that, and that can't happen. It's an individual pursuit. It's an individual choice. Now, the one thing that I see in all of this has one thing in common: the nativity. We see where the shepherds had to go see what the angels were worshiping and glorifying God about, and in turn created a worship within them, because then they went and told everybody the story. The kings, they come in, and their one purpose was, yes, to present gifts: gold, frankincense, myrrh, but they came to worship. The heart of this Christmas season to you, and I hope that you really grab a hold of this, is that as you enter into Christmas and you start to be considering the birth of Jesus, I want you to consider the approach to Jesus and your heart of worship before him. Allow this season to be one that is spontaneously filled with a pursuit and a worship of the Lord. That's what the Christmas nativity is all about. Blessings on you, Country Church. Thank you for joining, even though we had some technical difficulties. Love you, appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you on January 1st.